really like that, especially because the entrepreneurial mindset is one that we can learn so much from in the job search. Because, what I'm hearing here is there's a knowledge of the impact that the work you're doing is going to have, right? It has to be worthwhile for someone to pay for, right? So even when you're selling a comic book, someone wants to read that comic book. That's why you're able to sell it for a profit, right? And so one of the breakdowns I think that happens, and this is I do think sort of a societal, or maybe I don't know if it's societal or social media, like that's just like the micro society of social media, but like the heavy focus on like be yourself, live your truth, find your passion, all those different things. I think it sort of muddles the other side of it, which is that connection to what other people need, right? Because everything
Right.
should be a relationship, even business, right? And so what you said here is like so much of the conversation is about owning yourself and doing what you want to do. But how do we pair that sort of self focus or share that self focus with a them focus and like understanding their goals as well? Like, how did you sort of, as you tried each of your entrepreneurial ventures, how did your mindset evolve around value exchange?
But I think it was sort of underpinned by this idea of wanting to do whatever I want, and the thing that unlocks that is money for me, right? Because I could have said I'm going to go be a Buddhist monk, and
Sure.
like money was a non-issue. So in my case, that's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to do things that were experiential, that I knew cost money, and that was my way to get to it. Just want to make sure money's not always the answer, but in my case, I was comfortable with that, and so I knew that the things I wanted to do had to kind of check both boxes of things that I was excited about doing, but that there was also a market for. And the more I could find, get those two things to be in sync, well, then I could really be having fun, right? And that's I like working, so I try to find things that I enjoy doing. And it's depend. There's not necessarily a prescribed order. You could find something you really like doing, and then find a market for, or you could find a market and then look for work that you really like doing in that market. But I think it's understanding that those two things need to be present for there to be for that dynamic to exist. And I think at the end of the day, like that is core in having a job. And I think a lot of times people sacrifice one of those two things. They're like, and that's, people like Cal Newport call out passions. I'm not as hung up on like whether you're pursuing your passion or not.
Same.
It's like, look, you like doing the work, whether you're passionate about it or not. I don't know. It's enjoyable. Like I'm not dreading going to work. I don't wake up in the morning being like, wow, I don't ever want to do this again in my life. That's bad, and then I can actually get paid for it. And I think a lot of people say, well, I got to compromise on income because, so I can do work that I'm passionate about or that I love doing, or I got to do really work that I don't enjoy at all so I can make a lot of money. And look, I mean, I want to be sensitive to the fact that that's not available to everybody, but I do think like with the right work, it's possible for a lot of people.
I like how you phrase that. I want to be sensitive to the fact that's not possible for everybody, because I do think that there's this really interesting kind of unspoken, I mean, the overused word is like privilege, right? Like it's or entitlement is like the sort of cynical way to talk about it, right? So on one hand, you've got people saying, you should live your truth and you should be passionate and you deserve to be passionate about what you're doing, regardless of thinking about the other people, regardless of thinking about the value that it brings people and things like that. And then the other side is like, these people are so entitled because they don't really understand like how their passions connect to like the economy, right? And so one of the things that I think is so interesting is this sort of, I feel like folks get into this place sometimes when they're too steeped in the career development world, and learning how to do the job search, where they kind of lose touch with reality in some ways. And they start talking about things that are more things you earn than things that you deserve. And I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts around the entitlement side of things, where it's like, I put up a post on LinkedIn the other day saying, people expect more from their job than their parents. Like, they're like, I want my job to pay me an incredible salary. I want 100K, and I want to love all my coworkers, and I want to be able to work however I want to work, whenever I want to work, and I want to be able to do X, Y. It's like the list goes on and on. And I don't think any individual thing on the list is necessarily bad. It's just when you think you deserve all of it without giving anything up. Like, I feel like there might be some compromises in there. There might be some give and take in there. What do you sort of think when you're talking to people and they maybe have a laundry list that's a bit too rosy about what their career should look like? What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's I think about this a lot, because I'm trying to build a company that is very much like, on the employee side, and it's got this strong employee centricity. And there's a part of me that says like, yeah, whatever they want, it's my job to enable that.
Yeah.
And then I'm also trying to start a company that, every day the oxygen's running out of the tank and I got to make money. And it's like, well, okay, so that's the pure business side. And how do I reconcile those two things? And what I try to encourage people to do is like really, it's a commercial relationship. I say, look, there's this conflation that happens with, I'll call it like full-time employment, because if someone's like a consultant or a freelancer, for some reason they have a different mindset than when they're in full-time employment. But when you're in full-time employment and working under this contractual relationship we call a salary, people have like a different set of expectations. But it's like at the end of the day, it's a commercial relationship. Your relationship with your manager, that's a personal relationship. And you should nurture that. And, but your relationship with Acme Corp, that's a commercial relationship. And they need to make money. We work in a society that drives on currency and money and the exchange of money. If you want to go work in a nonprofit, that's got other issues, but maybe they're motivated by different things. But at the end of the day, a company exists to make money. Ideally, they do other things, but if they're not making money, they can't continue to exist. So it is this like very practical thing. And I think, we're in a moment right now where like the labor market is sort of not in a state of equilibrium. And I don't think it ever is. And especially, at an occupation level, right? Some occupations have higher demand than others. And, that's what makes it really interesting. But I think some people kind of lose sight of the fact that companies need to make money. And there may be some companies that were in a place where they could sort of throw that off in a way and offer all sorts of crazy things. And look, maybe they're playing the long game and it works out amazing for them. But some of that stuff's hard. And so to think that a company has to provide all those things, like they also don't do it like altruistically. They're doing it because they're making some kind of empirical bet that, okay, that increases retention, which then reduces their need to like recruit. At the end of the day, you got to be able to distill it down to like these empirical decisions. And I think people really struggle with that. And they kind of conflate the emotional and the personal with, at the end of the day, you can bring it all down to like very practical, like computational problems.
I love that you're talking about the practical side here, because I think, especially when you're a job seeker, you don't really understand the pressures that are happening within a company. There's tends to be this sort of idea that companies are just these like unlimited money machines that give people jobs in order to help the economy or something like that. And it's funny because it's like, I always say to people, I'm like, companies aren't sitting around going, wow, look at this excess pile of money we have. We should give someone an opportunity. It's very different. It's like they're sitting there going, oh my God, this is breaking. Oh my God, our customers are unhappy. Oh my God, we are growing too fast. It's like always coming from a place of kind of emergency or fear or risk management or something along those lines, right? Like I work with a lot of cybersecurity people and I'm like, companies aren't hiring you because they just want to be like fun and cool with cyber. Like they're hiring you because there's a security issue that they're worried about or someone got hacked. And when people go into these interviews, they're like, I can't believe this person didn't read my resume. I can't believe this person. It's like, well, of course they didn't read your resume. They were in another meeting and they got pulled out of that meeting to interview you because there weren't enough people on staff to run the interviews.